You got disabled, man.
All righty, just waiting for my good evening and just waiting for my brother to get on.
What's up, man? You got it disabled, man. You got to enable the video.
I just asked you to start it. Let's see. Let's do it again. There we go. There we go. A little bit.
There
of
we
technical
go. There we
difficulty,
go. There
we
we
figured
go.
it out. We figured it out. So look, welcome everybody to our fourth episode of the Smith Boys. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Smith, and my brother.
Yeah, that's me, Junior, as they call me.
So look, we decided to do something a little different today. We're not going to have any guests. We're just going to sit here and we're just going to have a conversation about some of the current events that's happening right now. And I think as we look across our nation, there are a lot of issues that's going on. But I tell you, one of the more polarizing issues is right now is the vaccine mandate. There are a lot of different ways that we can go and talk about this vaccine mandate. But first, so look, politics is local. I'm just going to say that whatever happens, go ahead, Joey.
Look, man. I totally agree, man. 80% of what impacts us as individuals hits us on the local level. Yeah. Like in my town, I go to all of my town hall meetings. I try to make most of them, right?
Yeah.
And when I go there, I see people genuinely making decisions that impact me, right?
Yes.
And these people could be Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Trump supporters, Biden supporters. But when they're in that town hall meeting and they're making decisions about my street, police departments, that impacts me.
Yeah.
So there are guys on my board, on our town board, that probably voted for Trump or voted for Biden, whatever. And I would vote for them locally. Now, would I choose some of them to pick my Supreme Court justice? Probably not.
Hold on. What'd you say?
I said, now, would I want some of those people choosing Supreme Court justices? No. But if they're going a local election and they're making decisions that impact me locally, yeah, and that's that nuance, So local politics is where it's at anyway.
So I have a little video that I'm going to share, and it's about North Carolina, and just to kind of give you an idea of the different sides of the debate as it pertains to the vaccine mandate. So just bear with me one quick while I share this. Just give me 1 second. Man, okay, share desktop, share. There we go. Here we go.
Fox 46's Jamal Goss joins us live in Shelby, where the protest just wrapped up. Jamal?
And Morgan, more than 100 healthcare workers showing up to say they don't want to be forced to get the COVID vaccine. That's the stipulation they say Atrium and Novant Health are putting them under. Now, people attending today's peaceful protest in downtown Shelby came from as far as Charlotte to make their voices heard, holding signs that read "Force isn't freedom" and "Natural immunity works." Now, before marching to Atrium Health Cleveland Hospital, several speakers discussed human rights to avoid having to take the shot. People we spoke with say they're concerned about the data surrounding the vaccine and its effects on women who are pregnant or lactating.
We don't want to be mandated to take it. Those who want to take it, we love them just the same. We want them to take it and feel safe. But for those of us that choose not to, we want to be able to have that right to say no, not at this time. And we don't want to lose our jobs. We love taking care of people. The communities need us.
Physicians take an oath to first do no harm,
but also they take that oath to do everything within their power to take care of their patients. And so this vaccination is something that is within our power that will ultimately help.
And
us
as COVID cases continue to rise and the Delta variant becomes more widespread, Atrium Health is mandating all 70,000 of its employees get the shot before October 31st. Novant Health is requiring all of its employees be vaccinated before September 15th. And employees do have the option to deny getting the shot based on religious beliefs or disabilities. Now, coming up tonight, all new at 10, hear more from Atrium Health leaders and the longtime nurse who quit her job when she found out about the new mandate. Reporting live in Shelby, I'm Jamal Goss, Fox 46.
All righty, so we're back. I know that's a lot to unpack, but do you want to take a stab at it first?
Where do I start? So,
Okay, let's start here. Let me ask you a question. Let's start
Yeah,
here
yeah.
because people want to hear us. They want to hear what our opinions are.
yeah, opinion,
What are
yeah.
your how do you? Let me think how I want to ask this. What are your thoughts on vaccine mandates in general? And do you think it's a good idea to mandate folks get vaccines? Let's go there.
Look, first of all, you know me, I'm always going to take the history route, right?
Okay.
And vaccine mandates is nothing new. So when I hear these people making these arguments, I get thoroughly confused. Like, for instance, we live in North Carolina, right? And in North Carolina, when you have children that go to school, it is North Carolina law, mandate, however you want to do that before you go to school. Hold up, let me get this right quick.
Yeah.
You have to get the tetanus vaccine, the whooping cough, the influenza B, measles, mumps, rubella, hepatitis, chickenpox. Before you enroll your child in school, you are mandated by law to get these vaccinations. I don't remember anybody saying when they stuck the child with the needle, oh, I need to do my research. You know, and if you try to send your child to school without them those shot records, after so many days, they're gonna tell you don't bring your child to school. So on one side, I understand that people want to do their research, but my thing is, I believe in keeping that same energy, you know. And Pfizer, like for instance, when they came out with Viagra in record time, I don't remember nobody saying do my research.
Hey, but this is the thing though.
I got you.
There are a lot of people that say they do their research, right? Like, and I don't want to make light of the fact that people want to do their research. Fine, do your research, but what kind of research are you doing? I mean, are you in a lab? I mean, what type of research are you doing? I mean,
Look, man, I tried to read like an abstract. You know, when Pfizer did all these research, all these studies, it's an abstract.
Yeah.
Man, after the third page, I'm like, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, when I hear people say, and I've asked that question, where are you doing your research? Who are you listening to? I mean, are you listening to the person that say that the vaccine is the mark of the beast? Or are you listening to the people that's saying that the vaccine, the government's putting computer chips in your arm? So at some point, you know, you gotta trust the science.
I would tell you that
yes,
there are a couple of things that you have to believe, and I say the first thing that you have to believe is that the folks who developed this vaccine, that they had ill intentions, and that they wanted to, that their goal was to develop something fast so that and not worry about the effects. Now we know. Look, I was having a conversation today at work, right, and everybody see those commercials on TV where if you have heart disease or if you have diabetes or something like that, and so they show they show what some of the side effects are, right? They go through them real fast. They go through them real fast.
You may die if you take this. You may die. You may not.
You may die. You may die. Exactly.
Well, the pretty woman going across the screen just distracting you.
Yeah. I mean, so we all take risks, but look, I guess there are 2 points that I don't want to conflate. The first point is, do we have a choice?
Yeah.
Does every person that's of legal consent, do they have a choice? Meaning, is there someone making you, gun to your head, telling you that you have to get this vaccine?
No,
No.
no,
So
but
go ahead.
no. But in some cases, they're telling you that if you want to keep getting a paycheck, you have to take this vaccine.
Okay. We ain't gonna go there yet. That's
Okay,
that's where I'm going with this. That's where I'm going with
Okay,
this.
okay, okay.
Okay. Because the thing is, we won't conflate choices and consequences. We're gonna deal with the choice first.
Okay,
So-
gotcha.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with the choice. So
Sound like daddy.
yeah, you do have a choice. I had a choice. Okay. I had a choice on whether or not I want to take the vaccine. Okay.
Mhm.
I decided that I was going to take the vaccine, and I'm probably going to take a booster. That's my choice. No one made me do it, you know. Now, the second thing is, whenever you take a job, there are conditions to your employment. Okay,
Yes.
we may not always agree with it. You know, you can't do drugs. There are some jobs where you can't do drugs.
It's frowned
There-
upon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying. So there is a condition for employment. For me, I still remember. Man, I'm about to age myself, but I still remember 1997 when I first entered basic training, and I can tell you we had to line up in a shot line. So everybody roll up your left or your right sleeve. Look, I didn't ask what was in it. I didn't know what was in it. They could have been giving me everything, but there were some people who decided they didn't want to do it. And so you know what happened to those folks? Those folks they decided they couldn't fulfill their obligation, and then so they were out. So the question is, can you have your cake and eat it too? When we saw the video, the nurse said one of the nurses that was talking, I presume that she was a nurse. She said that we just don't want to take the vaccine, but we also want to keep our job.
You can't have both ways. Look, it's like you just said. I remember, man. Look, I remember I was in my first grad school at North Carolina Central, and I didn't have my tetanus shot update. Right, I kept procrastinating because I didn't want to get that big shot in my arm. Finally, I got a letter told me I had to be out the dorm
Mhm.
if I didn't get my vaccine. So I went and got the vaccine. So I think here's the thing, man, and I could be wrong, but here's what I think. I think that when the pandemic first hit, right?
Yeah.
People who were in power, in authority, were not real responsible with how they put information out to the people. You started off saying that whoever that it was a hoax and all this stuff. And so what happened is you start politicizing the pandemic.
Mhm.
And you have a lot of people who are dead right now, unfortunately, who, if they would have been given correct information and this whole thing had not been politicized, we'll have a whole lot of people more vaccinated now than are not, put it that way. I truly believe that.
I always say I give credit where credit is due. And
Yeah.
but regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump, and regardless of how you feel about the way that he governed, Operation Warp Speed will probably go down as one of the greatest innovations in our history. The fact that we were able to take all of the greatest minds in medicine and develop a vaccine in that short a period of time. Okay.
Mhm.
And Donald Trump believed so much in the vaccine that he even got his vaccine. Him and his family, him and his wife, they decided to get a vaccine. So they decided to get the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, it would have been nice if he would have started off not saying it was a hoax, but I believe in getting credit where credit was due.
Yeah.
I'm
He deserves
slow to
credit, no
get
doubt about
credit. It's one thing doing the right thing when you have the chance to do it, when doing the right thing when you have no choice, and 5,000 people dying a day. But I get it. I gotta give him credit.
Yeah. It was a great innovation.
Ooh, boy, don't quote me on that, man. Don't quote me. On that.
But this is the second thing. Look, there are a lot of people who are having to make some tough choices about whether or not they choose to get the vaccine or if they have to lose their job. I don't envy any of those folks,
Hmm.
especially when you look at the way the economy is set up now. Particularly, I work with the military. I'm a contractor for the military, and there are military members who also have to make some tough choices on whether or not they want to get the vaccine or they can possibly lose their job, lose their commission. I mean, so it is. I don't want to. It's tough. I can't imagine, especially if you have that much conviction.
Back to what you said though, man, and back to Trump, man. Yeah, you're right. I give Trump credit, man. Yeah, a broke clock is right twice a day, so I give him credit.
Yeah.
But listen, man, just like you said, when you lined up and built basic training, when you went Lackland and San
Lackland Air
Antonio,
Force Base. Yep.
those same commissioned officers that went through the Air Force, they got that same shot in the arm, right?
They had to.
So I'm just trying to see what's the difference between now and then, But like I said, to each his own. Everybody has a choice.
While it was so before the FDA approval, I get it. I mean, before FDA approval, I think I understand because, and to be honest, I still had concerns. But I think my concern about being healthy, seeing my kids graduate, being around, I think that outweighed the concerns that I had, because the bottom line is that with any vaccine, any medication, anything you take, there is a population of people that they're going to have side effects. I mean, it just affects different people differently. I mean, that goes without saying,
Look, man, what they say, experience is not the best teacher. Experience is the sure teacher.
Yes.
And I tell you, like we all know when I had COVID, right? I didn't really share it too much when it happened.
Oh yeah,
But,
I remember.
Yeah, I tell you, I have never been that sick in my entire life. Like I said, one time I was in the back room by myself, quarantined, and I went to go to the bathroom. I couldn't make it back to my bed. I was laid right there in the middle of the floor. That's how weak I was. 10 came in and found me on the floor. She was like, "Oh, James."
Yeah.
But to tell you is that, listen, once I got over it and the vaccine was out, I went and got the vaccination. Another thing, look at the numbers. It's saying, and I don't know how much you can even qualify this, but if you look at what 98, 99% of the unfortunate individuals who are in the hospital, who are sick, who are dying because of this Delta variant, those are the ones that are unvaccinated.
Yeah.
So that's another, if you're going to trust the science and trust the data, that's an excellent data point to go by. Basically, the only people that are dying or getting hospitalized are the ones that are unvaccinated. And like I said, last time I checked, 98% is a passing grade. So,
It is a passing grade. But what do you say to what would you say to the folks who have that much conviction where they are making the decision to leave their career?
Well, here's what I say, and I'm not trying to make light of people that are making those decisions. But I think what did Stevie Wonder say in Superstitious? When you believe in things you don't understand, then you suffer. That's Stevie Wonder. Basically, man, you have people that are making life and death decisions about whether to get vaccinated, whether people who are turning down surgeries, they're making life and death decisions off of misinformation.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And now what's happened, we're in a culture now where people are questioning everything, right? And like I said, there's nothing wrong with questioning things, right?
Yeah.
But there's some kind of, like when you have a discussion, a debate, there's some baseline of truth we have to stand on. And watch now, you have people who are making decisions based off some of the craziest things I've never heard of. And that's a problem. That's why I feel bad for them, because they're making decisions, but they're using misinformation or crazy whatever to make that decision.
Yeah. As we're going on with this conversation, by all means, if you're listening in, please submit a comment. We want to hear what you think. Also, this is kind of like a smoke show where we're just kind of throwing out topics. And if you have a comment, please please do it. So my sister, Pam Smith, she just made a comment. And so my sister is a nurse. She's a registered nurse at Wake Med. And she just commented, she said, as a healthcare professional, that she can attest the statement regarding unvaccinated patients. They are most likely to not have an optimal outcome. And so this is something else that I think this is probably, I don't know. What happens for the folks who are unvaccinated, but they're the ones that are taking up hospital rooms? How do you square that? You know, there are some places where they say that people who need to have elective surgeries or surgeries that may not be as life-threatening but still needed, that there is not enough capacity because of the folks who are unvaccinated that are taking up the hospital rooms, hospital beds.
Well, look, man, here's the thing. You got to be consistent, but when you're gasping for breath, you know, you're not being like, listen here. You don't want to take the vaccine because it's experimental. It hasn't been out long. You have your convictions. But when you get in that hospital and you're gasping for air, they're giving you all kind of new treatments and everything that are new to help that. You're accepting that. And then I hear people who are in the hospital who now, when they see it's real, they want to get the vaccine then.
Yeah.
So I know it's tragic and it's unfair because, like I said, you got people who are making those decisions, and when they get sick, like I said, in Duplin County, I think a couple of weeks ago, the hospital person said they're overwhelmed. They've never been that full.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's tough. I mean, I don't want to be mean because everybody has to get care, but hey,
Yeah.
you know, what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would tell you one thing about it. One of the things that I realize is that if you want to see how you quit your job or you get fired, and then that brings a certain amount of humility. Because believe it or not, if you lose your job, there will be someone there to fill it. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what all these conspiracies, I don't care what they say. You lose your job, there will be someone there to fill it. My background is in the military. So I would tell you, especially from the military industrial complex, something that I've been involved with for the last 25 or so years.
Oh man, come on now. Come on.
So look, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how important that you think you are. Okay. If the decision comes for you to either get the vaccine or you're out, there will be someone else waiting in the wings. More than likely, the job will go on because it's about money. You are a number at the end of the day. And I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but we had a person with my company that passed away on a Friday, and on Monday his job was advertised.
Yeah.
Just for perspective.
Yeah. I think the Robert Frost who had that saying, he said, and everything I learned about life, it can be summed up in 3 words.
Yeah, it goes on.
It goes on.
Yes. Yeah.
It goes on.
Yeah. So I just say, man, you know, just we may touch this topic again. We'll see what happens. But we can transition on to our next topic. And so this is something that's also that's happening right now, particularly in North Carolina, is voting rights. Okay. Now again, I know voting rights is a loaded topic, and there's so many different ways that we can go. But I would tell you that we have to agree to certain facts so that we can have an informed conversation. Okay. Now my brother is go ahead.
Say that again, and say facts.
Yeah.
We can disagree on opinions. We can't disagree on facts, right?
You can't disagree. You can't disagree on facts. Okay.
Okay.
And so one of the terms that is often misunderstood is voter suppression. Okay. Now I have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, and some people think voter suppression means that they say, well, hey, they're not taking away your right to vote. I mean, that is true. voter suppression does not take away your right to vote, but it does make it harder. And so I'm just gonna give you an example. And Junior, you can play along if you want to.
Sure.
I'm just gonna use North Carolina I live in North Carolina. I'm just gonna use this as an example. Okay. Currently in North Carolina, you do not have to have an ID to vote. Okay. Now, sidebar, I think you should have an ID to vote. Okay. We'll come back to that. That's just my opinion. Okay. But currently, you do not have to have an ID to vote. Okay. So what happens if a law is passed that says, you know what, now the folks who don't, now you have to have an ID to vote. Okay. The question that I have is then who should pay for it?
Yeah.
If there is
Well,
a new law that says right now, people can vote without an ID, now they need an ID to vote. I would say that if there is a new law, I would say that the state should pay for IDs. Okay. So now we say, okay, that's pretty good. Okay. The state should pay for IDs. So now, okay. But what do you need to get your ID? Most of the times you need a birth certificate. You need a, what are some of the other things you need to get about that? You need some sort of documentation that you can prove who you are.
Yeah,
Okay?
you that you live somewhere while you're homeless.
Yeah. Okay. So now where it was no steps, there was no barriers in place for you to vote. Now there's 2 barriers. Okay. Now you have to, actually you have to make time, but we'll deal with that later. But so now you have to have an ID. Suppose you don't have a birth certificate. Okay. Birth certificate costs money. Okay. Suppose you don't have the money. Okay. Or suppose you don't have transportation. Okay. Now, the law didn't say you can't vote. It just says that you need these things to vote. And the whole idea is to make it harder. That's what voter suppression is. Voter suppression makes something that was typically easy, it makes it harder. Now, me and my brother, we were talking earlier today, and we're going to use Texas as an example. Okay. So Texas decided to implement voter ID. Okay. Now everybody has to have voter ID, but on top of that, they decided that they want to try to close probably around 83
90
DMVs.
something. In which areas?
in the rural areas, yes.
So look, here's the thing. And like I say, man, look, when it comes to this history, man, it's history repeats itself. Well, what they say, I think Mark Twain said, history don't repeat itself, it echoes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You have the letter of the law, and then you have the spirit of the law. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, what was the motivation behind passing these laws? Now, you can't say the motivation was voter fraud, because that's already been shown that is rare.
But does
Right.
it happen?
Huh?
It happens.
Of course,
though.
it happens. But does it happen to the point where it's going to change an election?
No. No.
Yeah. They did a study where out of 1 billion votes cast, maybe 10, some kind of crazy number, were anything of voter fraud. So
Yeah.
it's not enough. So it's like a solution looking for a problem,
Yeah.
basically. And so, yeah, but to your point, that's exactly the thing with the voter ID. See, when they say voter ID laws, I say, don't read, see the part in the law that talks about voter ID, that's the easiest part to read,
Correct.
without understanding legal talk.
Correct.
But when you look at the other things attached to the law,
Yeah.
therein lies the issue right there, what the intent is.
And then also what IDs that you can that is acceptable. I mean, so I know when I was in college, all I had was a college ID, but in North Carolina, the college ID wasn't a valid it wasn't a valid ID for you to be able to vote. And yeah, I don't know,
So,
but
and look, a college ID, guess what? Who are people in college likely to vote for?
yeah.
So look, man, here's what
Before
they
you
did.
go on, let me say one thing because I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget.
Okay.
Now the question is, why are we here? And so now I'm talking about most of the southern states. Okay.
Oh.
Why
That's where I'm about to
why are we here? And again, we have to go back into history to understand why we're here now. When the Civil Rights Act was passed, there were certain states in certain towns in certain states, but there were certain states, mostly southern states, that had a history of discriminating against African Americans and hindering their right to vote. There was a section, I think it's section 4B or section 5B, one of those. It was
Section 5. Section 5.
Section 5 said that before any of those states that were identified or towns that were identified, before they made any changes to their voting laws, they had to submit it to the Department of Justice. Okay.
Pre-clearance.
Pre-clearance. Okay. Now there are a couple of things that happen, and I'm just going to put it together. One thing that we know is that when we looked at voter registration leading up to 2008 and 2012, particularly 2008, okay, there were more African Americans, minorities that came off the sidelines and voted for President Obama than ever before. And not only did they vote for President Obama, they voted for the Democratic Party en masse. So 2000, when President Obama was elected, the Democrats controlled the House, they controlled the Senate, and of course they had the presidency. And then you look at the state legislators and you look at governors. So there was really a Democratic wave. Okay, 2012, President Obama gets elected again. Okay, now this is where things get interesting. Okay,
yeah. And
it was still record turnout, but not like it was before in 2008. Okay, but there was a lawsuit that was called Shelby versus the Department of Justice. Who was
Shelby versus Holder?
Shelby, yeah. Holder was the Attorney General.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll let you. I'm not gonna steal all the thunder. Go ahead.
No, man. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Look, man. Look, people gotta know these are the conversations me and my brother be having. We just don't be talking about opinions. Look, those books back there behind us, they not there for show. We actually read all them books, okay? So, but go ahead, man. You got it, man.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. So Shelby versus Holder was a law that it was changed. Well, it was challenged, and the opinion it was now at that point. Now you're gonna have to fill in some of the history. Now I remember. I think that the conservatives held a majority on the Supreme Court during that time period.
It's probably one of the worst decisions since Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott decision.
Yeah.
Justice Roberts wrote the opinion
Yes.
on that decision. Now, Justice Roberts, you gotta remember Justice Roberts, he was a lawyer. Remember the Gore case where they changed all them votes in Florida, Gore v. Bush?
Yes. Yeah.
Roberts was one of the lawyers for Bush that had them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm just putting it in perspective.
Yeah.
Listen, that's what historical thing comes in. Like I said, like you said before, Ant, section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, that's the teeth of it. That's the most important part.
Yeah.
And it basically said that any law you make in reference to voter and things like that has to be cleared, like you said, by the Justice Department.
Yeah.
Once that specific part was dropped down, I want everybody to do a little homework assignment. Look at the Shelby versus Holder decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's 2012, 2013.
2013, I think is when it passed. Yes.
Now, look at 2013 when that struck down, and then time that when all these voter laws start being passed.
Well, but before we even get there, there was we have to look at the reason why Justice Roberts, because he was the swing vote and all. I mean, it was 5-4. He was the swing vote.
Yeah.
Now, the reason that Justice Roberts sided with the conservatives, if they said that, well, let's look at all the leaps that we made. So that means that the law worked, because we were during that time period, 2013, when you look at folks who were registered, it was equal. So we were registering, and I say African Americans, we were registering at the same levels that that the majority were registering. And so he used that as a justification to say that means that the leveling field has been, well, the field has been leveled, and now we don't need those laws. But as I think about it now, the reason why I was working was because of the law. But that's I digress.
Look, man, I read that decision, and I knew once that decision was made, it was it was disingenuous, because basically it's like this here, man. Like when I go to work, I take Highway 24, right?
Mhm.
And there's a dip, and there's always a cop there, a speed trap, always there, right? And you slow down, right? When he's not there, you speed, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Section 5 was the cop making you slow down.
Yeah.
And everybody, look, here's the thing. Laws do not change the heart of man.
No.
Laws does not change a mindset. So when you put the laws, if what I think in the Federalist people, if men were angels, you wouldn't need laws, right? So basically, what you have is that once you took away Section 5,
Yeah.
then all of those mindsets that were just sitting there waiting started to pounce.
Okay. And so when Section 5 was enacted,
Mhm.
if I were to ask you to name the states that were mostly affected, and I just, so mostly southern states, Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina,
Arkansas,
Texas,
North Carolina.
yes, and Virginia. And
If you
in North
look
Carolina, there are probably 20 counties that were affected. Now, this is the interesting thing. Now, my math maybe, it's a little hazy, but shortly after Section 5 was repealed, the state of North Carolina, what was his name? Governor Pat McCrory. Pat McCrory announced that he was signing an ominous bill, a voting rights bill. Okay.
I'm ominous.
Ominous, one of those. Yeah, you know what that means. Yeah, we know what that means. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're talking about within days, within weeks of it being repealed, that they announced that they were going to have this. And this is what's interesting. I think this is okay to do. So what the North Carolina state legislature, what they decided to do, they decided to pull data, and they want to focus on voting patterns. They want to know who voted, when did they vote it, how did they vote, okay? And so that in itself, I think it's okay. I don't have an issue with that. You want to see the data.
It's okay. It's okay to see the data, but why are you looking at the data? That's what you need to ask.
Yeah. So look. I mean, this is serious stuff. I mean, because look, I'm laughing now because in retrospect, it's like this is like the funniest thing ever. But anyway, well, not the funniest thing, but it's pretty sad and clever also. So what they decided to do was they decided to, based on that information, they found out that that minorities, that they often voted early, so they kept voting early voting day. One of the other things that they said when it comes to ID, now, like I said, we're gonna have a conversation about voter ID, okay?
Yeah.
However, we talked about voter ID, but then they said, well, now there are only certain forms of voter ID that we're gonna select. And to make a long story short, the bill was passed, but the appeals court, and this is part of the language that I will not forget when I read that.
And make sure that when you say about that appeals court, I'm going to go in and say on that appeals court, it was a majority conservative judges on that appeal court. Just put that out there.
Correct.
Okay.
They said that the appeals court, and their reasoning for rejecting that law, they said that the state legislation. Now they're saying that they said that they can't prove that it was racism in their hearts that made them decide to pass this law. But what they did say, that they acted with, and I quote, surgical precision. That's the exact word when it came to the laws that they crafted and who it impacted. And so based on that, they said that there was racial discrimination. The intent was there, and so that's why it was struck down.
So in other words, yeah, I can't call you a racist, but you sure acting like a racist.
Correct. And correct me if I'm wrong. There have been two other times where what happened? Oh yeah. So the Republicans, I mean, look, you got to give them credit because they are very they have a good imagination. And so what they decided to do, they decided to put a referendum. And so it came out that roughly 56% of the folks that voted, they were in favor of voter ID. Okay. But the problem is the appeal courts came back and said again, it doesn't matter if you try to will us in here, the intent behind that is still it still remains the same.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's where I believe in intellectual honesty, right? And the thing is, and when I was having these discussions with people, like first I have a problem with voter ID either, right? But see, here's the thing: once you can see that point and you show them, okay, like for Texas, right, or in North Carolina too, they try to do the same thing. If you put a voter ID law in place, and then you close down all the driver's license offices in low-income areas or where the people that's going to vote you are, then what is that? And see, here's the thing:
a lot of people don't know
suppression.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't know the nuances of that law and what the intent was. Can you imagine in Texas? I live in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh yeah,
and I can tell you, it feels like it can take a day just to go between one coast to the other coast. Texas is huge, and can you imagine closing 87 driver's license offices around the same time that you decided that voter ID was the law of the land in Texas?
If you're trying to suppress the vote, I can imagine it.
and so that means that if you lived in a small rural town and yours was closed, you would have to go to another town, could be an hour away, depending on where you live at. And again, you still have the right to vote, but voter suppression just makes it easy. And this, I mean, it makes it harder. And this is the thing. All it takes is 15 here, 30 here, and they say, you know what, it's so hard. I just don't want to do it.
You in my head, man. That's exactly. See, that's why we done Smith Board. That's exactly what I was going to say. In these elections, man, where there are razor thin margins, look at the Supreme Court case, the state Supreme Court. I think Miss Beasley, between her and the person that lost, I think she lost by what 200-300 votes, right? So what's happening is that they understand these elections are going to be closer and closer. And to your point, if you can knock off 100 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here, it gives you a better chance. You're suppressing that vote, and that's why you're trying to get the outcome. So the suppression is not. They try to give you plausible deniability.
Correct.
It's like it's not racist. We're not targeting minorities. Everybody can get an ID. That's a plausible deniability. But when you add that extra caveat, that's where you have the issue.
And I think a lot of it, like I said, man, I don't know those folks. I can't judge the hearts. I don't know that. I think part of it is obviously I agree with what the appeals court said that it was discrimination based on race, but I also think
that's what's in their heart.
They want to win.
Yeah.
They want to win elections, and so if you, I mean, look. If you can get away with it, I mean, we can talk about the morality of it later. But I'm just saying, if you can craft legislation that gives you the advantage, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, well, look. I mean, that's kind of sad but true, right? Like I said, man, this voter suppression and voter suppression of minorities and African Americans or minorities is nothing new. I mean, even though you had the 15th Amendment was ratified in 1870, but even after the 15th Amendment, you had the poll tax. Look, having to pay for an ID, pay for a driver's license, pay for a new book. That's poll tax.
No.
You had the literacy test saying you had to know how to read, and you had the grandfather clause, right? Look, the poll tax was was made unconstitutional in the 60s, up into the 60s. So there's nothing new under the sun. What's happened, they're just gotten more sophisticated. That's why I said that laws don't change the heart of men. If you have that intent or that mindset to keep a certain group of people from voting, it's not going to ever go away. And the sad thing is what people don't realize, and I think African Americans got kind of a little apathy about voting. The people that wanted to keep African Americans and keep African American votes suppressed, they never stopped fighting, right? Shelby versus Holder took a while to get to the Supreme Court. It had to go through the appellate, the state to get to the Supreme Court. These people never stopped fighting. And so now we're in a situation now where it's clear that Section 5 needs to be reinstated. And look, the Senate won't bring it for a vote because they understand.
Yeah, but also the thing is, I live in a rural town, and
Me too.
yeah, we both do, and so it doesn't just affect minorities; it affects poorer people.
Yeah.
White people who are poor, black people who are poor, Asians who are poor. When especially, I mean, I'm trying to imagine if Wayne County decided that they were going to close their DMV, where would I have to go? Now, suppose I don't have a car, and you know what I mean, or suppose I've had to move so many times because look, I guess my point is you shouldn't be because you are poor, because you're on the low socioeconomic spectrum. It should not affect your ability to be able to vote.
Here's the thing. Back we said about we live in rural areas, right?
Yeah.
So we live between Wayne, Jones, Craven, Onslow County, right?
Yeah.
So when after
Lenore.
Obama won in 2008 and they started looking at that data, look at voting patterns, they saw that Wayne, Duplin, they went for Trump, right? Well, they went Republican, right? So for the most part. So they're not going to close the DMV in the counties where they got an advantage, right?
No,
but look up in Greensboro, look up in Raleigh, look in those other areas where there are concentrations of people that don't vote for them. That's where the issue is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the whole point is that we need to have a wholesome conversation when we talk about, because like I say, what happens is terms like voter suppression, voting rights, a lot of it it could be lost in translation if you don't understand the history of it, because it does matter. I mean, we can even go back to when this nation was first founded. When you think about who was allowed to vote,
Hey,
I mean, if you want to go there, who was and actually let's just think about this for a second. Let's think about this for a second. Okay, who was allowed to vote? What?
look, man, I'm chopping that bit.
Hey, go ahead.
Look, man,
Go ahead.
in my classroom, and this is my introduction to civics. In my classroom, there's a picture of the Constitutional Convention.
Yeah.
That famous picture with George Washington standing up and Ben Franklin sitting down, and all the people. A big, huge picture in my classroom. And I ask my students to look at that picture, and I preface it. The essential question is, the statement is, let's see, if you're not at the table when decisions are being made, then you're on the menu, right? And if you look at the founding fathers, they were the most educated, there was a wealthy, and they were white men who were making these laws to put this country together.
Yeah.
And you had who was not there. Native Americans weren't there, right? Women weren't there, right?
Poor white people who didn't own
white
land.
people were not there. If you did not own land, you could not vote, right? And so, as a matter of fact, a little history. North Carolina, I think 1860, North Carolina was the last state to allow people to take away the property ownership requirement to vote. So North Carolina was the last state to allow white men without property to vote. So that means from George Washington, the 1780s to 1860, Abraham Lincoln, in a lot of places, if you didn't have land or property, you can vote. Think about all the legislation that was passed up to that period, right? So
Well,
to your point, this is nothing new.
It's nothing new, but also, I mean, I'm just, my mind is spinning right now. And even when we go back and we talk about the grandfather clause, that a lot of people don't excuse me.
Some
Yeah,
facts
you want
coming
to
out
talk about
too
the
fast,
grandfather
they choke
clause
you
real
up,
quick?
right?
Nah, hey,
Say it again?
look, I ain't said. Talk about the grandfather clause real quick.
You good? Yeah, yeah. The grandfather clause. So basically, the grandfather clause was passed post Reconstruction, like that's like 1877, that time period. And basically, what it said was that if your grandfather did not vote in a previous election, then you could not vote in the election, right?
Yeah.
So basically, in 1877, that means your grandfather was probably a slave.
Yeah.
But the way they wrote the law, and here's where I said the spirit of the law. The way they wrote the law, that's anybody. So also, of course, that included a whole lot of poor whites also who fell in that category because if their grandfather didn't own land, they didn't vote. But see, here's the thing about the law. The law is only good as the person who is enforcing it.
Correct.
Right? So even though that's where the plausible deniability comes in, and that's why they say, well, the grandfather clause is not racist because white people, they couldn't vote as well, right? But when the white persons came up to vote, they were allowed to vote, and African Americans cannot vote. So that's what the plausible deniability in. So, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun about suppressing the African American vote at all. And like I said, even with the poor whites, unfortunately, in that case, the ones who probably the literacy test, look, they probably couldn't read either, right? Or they probably didn't have money to pay for the poll tax either. But like I said, if the person there who's enforcing it, who has the intent, then of course it's not an issue. Yeah. But I'm bringing that up. Yeah, it's good to bring. A lot of people don't know that in the beginning of this country, that's right. If you were poor and white, you couldn't vote. And that was a dynamic up way into the 1860s. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the whole intent is that look, most of the stuff that we're gonna have to do another Junior, we're gonna have to do another section about some of these books that are being banned in high school. But anyway, the sad part is that most of the stuff that I know, I learned after I graduated from high school, and I started reading. It just wasn't taught in school, and I would venture to say that it's not being taught in school now. And so, for people who didn't know this, it could be a shock to because I mean it could be a shock. So part of what we want to do is we want to educate, and again, we want you to be able to have an informed decision. And why is this important? Because we're about to have another election in Virginia right now. I was watching an interview in Virginia. They're already saying that there's fraud that's taking place, and I mean it's just it's I don't know, it's getting out of control when you have a subsection of folks who really believe that the election was stolen, and so this is the precursor for implementing all of these new voting restrictions. And look, this is the one thing that I don't understand, right? Because I was thinking about it today, about all the people who thought that the election was stolen. I'm not calling you ignorant. I'm not calling you stupid out there, because look, you can believe what you believe and you can feel how you feel, but facts don't care about your feelings. Okay.
Thank you. I charge 25 cents for using that.
It has to be an amazing feat that voter fraud was only found in the states, one, that Trump didn't win. Okay. And then also, everybody is on the same ballot. How does that work? The same folks who were saying that the election was stolen, they were on the same ballot that Trump was on. I mean, I don't know. I just can't make sense of it.
And it's logic, man. It's what you're doing. You're applying logic.
Yeah.
And like I said, listen, that's what goes back to intent. They wanted to use anything to try, and what's happening, man. And look, and here's what's happening. they're passing these laws in these state legislatures, and they're taking the power of, like, as far as over elections, they're taking it from the local precincts
Correct.
and putting it in the head of the state, right?
Correct.
Because they want to prevent. I mean, this is serious and scary stuff, man. And like I said, what happens when, look at the secretaries of state, I think for Arizona, for Georgia, and another state who are Republicans,
Yeah.
right? Who are now being threatened
Yeah.
in fear of their lives because they did the right thing.
Yeah.
And so, and this is kind of what, this is what the founding fathers were kind of fearful of. That's why I used to criticize the founding fathers for putting electoral college in, because they didn't trust the masses. But I can kind of see a little bit what they were talking about is that, the mob is scary. The mob doesn't care about facts, Ant.
No.
Those people that was out there banging on the walls and trying to say, stop the steal, they didn't care about logic. They didn't care about, listen to the kind of comments they were saying.
Yeah.
The UPS man is on video dumping it in a ditch, and I got video to prove it. I mean,
Well, look, a lot of people don't even with Bush and Gore, a lot of people don't remember when the mob was going in there when they were recounting the votes.
that's right.
I mean, so that's a whole nother story, but somehow Roger Stone was involved, but I'm not gonna go down the rabbit hole. But
Man, look, man, we can look the Bush v. Gore.
I'm not gonna go down that. It has
Man,
implications.
man.
The implications of Bush v. Gore, we're still feeling that now.
Yeah, man, but Bush v. Gore, man, listen, and I know it's getting short in time,
Yeah.
but it was the Supreme Court that stopped the count in Florida.
Correct. Correct.
when Gore started gaining, it was the Supreme Court that stopped the count.
Yeah.
A Supreme Court stepped in and stopped the count.
Yeah.
So whenever there is a turn in history where there's a certain group that's starting to make crucial gains, especially minority group, it's almost like it's a default that this country goes back to.
Yeah.
To say, you've got this far, let's pull back a little bit. So
I just think there's something that I want to hit on, but I know we're getting close to the time. We may have to do after hours because I want to, one of the other things that's happening right now is the legislation that's in Congress right now, the infrastructure plan and the Build Back Better plan, and
we can hit on that, man. Come on, people won't mind.
I
Y'all mind
just-
going another minute.
I just want to talk about this for a second because this is something that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Look, I criticize. I'm an unaffiliated voter. I criticize each side the same. But this is something that I was thinking about when I think about West Virginia. Okay, now West Virginia. If you don't believe me, you can do this. You can Google U.S. You can go to U.S. News state rankings. Okay,
Yeah.
and
State rankings.
there are 4 or 5 different categories on how they judge the whether or not a state is performing. And so there's education, so there's infrastructure, there is healthcare. West Virginia and Senator Manchin right now is one of the senators in Congress that is now, granted, he is in a tough spot, but I don't care. Okay.
Look,
He's
let
a
me
conservative Democrat in West Virginia.
let me go to one quick thing about Senator Manchin.
Go ahead.
He is the only in the entire state, the only Democrat that's elected statewide in the state of Virginia. Everybody else is Republican.
Yeah.
So just to give a little perspective there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I often wonder, with that being said, when you look at some of the states that have the worst outcomes in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of infrastructure.
Sound effects, boom.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let me go.
But yeah,
Because there's often a conversation that happens and that says, when it comes to people who vote Democrat, well, why do you continue to vote for Democrats if they turn your back on you, whatever? What I want to say is, if you live in Mississippi, if you live in West Virginia, if you live in Louisiana, if you live in in
Alabama,
in
Arkansas.
Alabama, those places that have historically been controlled by Republicans, but yet you rank towards the bottom. Even look at Kentucky. You rate towards the bottom. Why do you continue to vote for Republicans?
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Look, that I've asked that question so many times. And myself, like I say, I'm unaffiliated voter. I vote my interest, right? Like I said earlier in the show, on the local level, there are guys on my town board that may be Republican. If they were, I will vote for them
Yeah.
because they're voting my interest. On the state level, right? On the national level, I vote my interest, not the party.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that first of all, I think a lot of people that vote, I don't think they're well, I don't want to make a statement like that. I gotta be careful. I haven't seen where people that are voting are making decisions based on research. Like when I go vote, and it's almost insulting, but they do it all the time. When I go vote, there's a person that gives you they give you these poll people, they
Yeah, I
give you
know.
like a
Poll
slip.
watch,
Poll
yeah.
watchers, right? And they give you a slip and it has the entire Democratic ticket or the entire Republican
Mhm.
ticket, and they vote. They vote
Straight ticket. What just
in your
happened?
entire life,
Yeah.
right? Oh, something just happened. You
Yeah.
good?
You get
All right. Yeah. So you've never seen the name in your entire life, and then, like I said before, people need to make informed decisions. I think we need to be more educated in our voting processes. What we'll learn is that if you're educated, you might on your local level. I'm not saying that's the case all the time,
Yeah.
but whether you're a Republican that votes Republican, there may be a Democrat that is voting in your best interest on the local level and vice versa.
Correct.
So that's a good point to bring up. But to your point,
Yeah.
man, yeah, it's insulting when the argument is that, when Afro-Americans, they say they vote, get off the plantation, while the Democrat. I'm not concerned about the Democrat. I'm concerned about judges that are going up there saying that the Brown case was overreach, like one
Yeah.
federal judge that was just appointed,
Mhm.
that the Brown case was overreach, right?
Yeah.
And things of that nature. That's what I'm concerned about. So great point you just made, bro. Great
Yeah.
point.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna close with this right here. The people who have more impact in your life is your city council, your mayor, and your county commissioners. Those are the folks who have the people who can raise your water bill. Those are the people you need to be. Those are the people you need to be concerned with. And to your point, look, man, our city council, I can go in on the butt. Look, our city council it is an interesting thing to see. But I would tell you, it's just like you said. I said, when it comes to city council, I look at policy. I look at local policy. I don't look at how you look. I don't look at what your voting history is. I look at policy. And just like you said, whether it's a Democrat or whether it's a Republican, I said they may be in your best interest if you keep an open mind.
Open mind. That's right.
Yeah.
Look, man. See, like you just said, a few years ago when they were trying to put a big old ditch, a big old 5-foot ditch in front of my property.
Yeah.
Man, I went to the town.
Yeah.
I didn't call the senator.
Yeah.
I didn't call the governor.
Yeah.
I went straight to the town hall and said, "Hey, bruh, no,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
gotta come to it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I said no. That impacted me, right?
Yeah.
So to your point, if we would advise anybody to what you just said, if you take anything from what we just said tonight, get involved in your local town hall, probably your county commissioner.
Mhm.
Not more, even the board of education if you got time like that,
Board of
but
Education
definitely
too.
your town hall and your county commissioners,
Yeah.
because everything that impacts you on that level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this was good. This was good conversation.
Man, yeah, I mean,
I hope that the people who listen, I hope that you gain some for it. But again,
Yeah.
I'm going to post a link with a link tree with all the links that we referenced today. I forgot to do that earlier, so
Okay.
I don't want you to take our word for it.
Yeah.
You know, go and look. This is all information that's available.
And Ronald Reagan, when he was talking about Gorbachev, whether he gonna get rid, Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify.
Yeah, trust but verify. So don't take our word for it.
Republican president, good quote.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so that's all we got. That's all we got today. And look, so if you're out there listening, if there are any topics that that you all may be interested in that you want us to talk about, just let us know, because we're always trying to find things that are relevant that people can so put it out there, put a post, and we'll see that, because one of the things that we want is we want more interaction from the audience. We want to know what you think. So I think moving forward, I think at the end of our sessions, we're going to invite people on to just kind of talk and share your and share your perspective. So be on the lookout for that. Okay. You got anything else?
Man, enjoyed it. Look, that's why we just spent for these are the conversations me and my brother have on the telephone.
Yeah.
So we just having a telephone conversation on Zoom, on Facebook. That's all that is.
All right. Hey, we out.
All right. Peace.